Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great webinar for you on a really fascinating topic, which is culinary medicine. My name is Eric Vorkepper. I'm the online education manager at the University of Montana, and I'm going to help facilitate the meeting today. So to give you kind of a brief overview of what to expect, I'll introduce our speaker. He'll give you a kind of a brief overview of what culinary medicine is. He'll be talking about some practical applications of the discipline that you can practice right in your own home. And then we'll go over some different educational opportunities that are available to you. We'll save about 10 minutes at the end of the session today to field any questions that you might have. So as your questions arise, please feel free to enter those into the chat box at the bottom of your screen there, and we will do the best to get to everyone's questions today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker today. He's a professional chef, author, cardiologist, and college professor. Please welcome Dr. Michael Fenster.
Thanks, Eric. And I want to take a moment and thank all of you for taking 30 minutes out of your busy, crazy schedules and joining me to talk about one of my passions, which is culinary medicine. If it wasn't for all of you, and I'm so excited because we've got people, again, not from just across the country, but actually from across the world, tuning in to find out about culinary medicine, engage in culinary medicine, learn about culinary medicine, practice culinary medicine. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't get to do this. And I love my job. So speaking of my job, I'm going to get started on that. Last time we had a webinar and we talked about culinary medicine, which is the Introduction to Culinary Medicine course that we offer at the university, offers a micro-credential or a level 1 certification in culinary medicine. And we kind of covered what the course is about, a little bit about culinary medicine. And if folks are interested, if you missed that, you want to get that information, just hop on over to the website, Chef Dr. Mike, chefdrmike.com, and you can watch the recorded webinar. You can learn about the course. You can download the syllabus. Again, that's chefdrmike.com. All the information's there. And then there's a connection to hook up with the university if the course is something you might want to consider taking or actually go ahead and take. And there's lots of options there. But what I wanted to do today and moving forward in these webinars that we're doing is take what we learn in the classroom, which is the theory and the reasons behind things, and bring them into the real world, bring them into our kitchen. You know, the kitchen, the real world, that's the laboratory where we prove the value of culinary medicine. And so one of the things I wanted to share with you today is one of our core philosophies in culinary medicine, which is what I call a zero waste kitchen. And so, you know, what is that? What does that involve? Well, I'm going to highlight it as an example with the recipe. And I want to jump back just for a second and talk a little bit about recipes, because people often take the recipes as gospels written in stone. And quite honestly, as a professional chef, they're the exact opposite. They're there to serve as your inspiration, to inspire you. Culinary medicine teaches that in terms of food, its effects on us, how we can use it for health and wellness, it always comes back to the individual, because we all have our own individual tastes, preferences, flavors, and that's great. That's absolutely fantastic. So what I want to do with this recipe is highlight that a recipe is a guide. And I always like to teach recipes to our culinary folks the way I used to teach martial arts way back in the day, which is that what you're learning is a principle. So you practice the recipe, which we'll give you the link for. It's on the website again. And once you kind of have that down, then start changing it. You know, if you want a little more spice, add some heat. You want that sauce a little thicker or thinner, you do that. You do what suits you, because culinary medicine is meant for you. It's all about you. So, you know, with that as a background, we're going to talk and use as an example a recipe, a pesto recipe, which is one of my favorite things in the world. And again, one of the things that we cover in the course that I'm really not going to touch on here, other than to mention it briefly right here, is the concept of what we call the art of sorcery, which is like, how do you pick out these ingredients? A lot of this actually comes from the culinary world with the seasoning of information and insight about the effects of the ingredients we use. And so when it comes to choosing ingredients, and I'll highlight this in the recipe we'll cover in just a minute, it's three simple questions. How was it bred? Meaning, is this something raised conventionally? Is it a GMO? Is it an heirloom vegetable? Is it a heritage breed of poultry or such? What was it fed? So was it conventionally raised on a farm? Was it organically raised? Was the seafood caught wild? Was it farmed? If it was farmed, under what circumstances was it farmed? All these things we're learning affect our food. And last, but certainly not least, is where was it led? So once it was harvested, what happened to our food? There's actually a huge movement across the globe that was originated out of Brazil called the Nova classification. We don't use it here in the States, but it's gaining wide acceptance, and it's something we cover and teach in the course, where actually the health effects of food are measured not on whether it's a vegetable or a piece of meat, or how many carbs or how much saturated fat, but really looking at the post-processing level of the food. Is it minimally processed? Is it processed, or is it ultra processed? And so these are all important considerations. So today, the recipe I'm going to share with you is carrot top pesto. And you're going to say, what is that? Well, first of all, like if you went into a chefy place and you saw, oh, carrot top pesto on the menu, you'd be thinking that.
Who muted him?
There we go. You should be able to hear me now.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that.
So what I was saying is we're going to do a carrot top pesto. And as an example, I actually have, and hopefully you can see this, like we got props today. This is a carrot. So I'm going to walk through those three questions we ask about this. So how is this bred? This is actually an heirloom carrot. What was it fed? It was raised organically. And where was it led? About a half hour ago, this was growing in my garden out back. So absolutely minimal processing on this. And when we shop for things like organic carrots and the why behind it and the difference between heirloom and conventional, organic and conventional, et cetera, those are all the things we cover in the course. But suffice to say that when we're asked to get our product that way, let's face it, in the world we live in today, that costs a little bit more. So in culinary medicine, zero waste means we don't want to waste anything because that's just more sustainable, and it's also more economically sustainable for us. So in the course, we cover why we would buy something like this with the carrot tops on. Very briefly, this is our freshness indicator. Interestingly, we all think about eating this part of the carrot, but if we went back and looked at ancient Greece, for example, what we would find is that they actually ate the greens. So the greens were considered a food. The root here was actually used as a medicine. And according to ancient historians, no surprise, it was considered an aphrodisiac. And it wasn't until the 16th century that we got the familiar carrot-colored or orange-colored carrots that were developed by the Dutch with a focus on eating the root. So as we bring these into our, hold on a second. As we bring these into our kitchen, one of the things we want to do is go ahead and cut these tops off, because now we know that our carrots are fresh. And from there, we want to get rid of these thick, fibrous, woody stems. We're not going to throw them away because we're going to be able to use something like this for stocks and so forth. Then we want to take these beautiful leafy greens. And believe it or not, these have the same high concentration of vitamin A that one would find in the roots. They're rich in potassium, just like the root is, so they're very helpful for us in that aspect. And additionally, as you can see, they are very green, which means they're loaded with chlorophyll. So when we use this in our food, we're going to get some of those health benefits that y'all see that people talk about with, for example, green tea. And interestingly, these tops contain about 6 times the vitamin C that you can find in the root. So you can see that using these beautiful feathery tops is actually a great thing to do from a health perspective. But from a culinary perspective, they have a whole range of benefits as well. They're beautiful, they're leathery, they smell and taste like carrots. And there are ways to use them besides the pesto that we're going to talk about that include soups, hummus, salads. You can mix them in pastas, pasta greens. You can use these in a stir fry. You can use them in vinaigrettes. Absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and get on the screen. I'm going to take you through our, if I can get the screen share to come up, there we go. And I'm going to take you through our recipe here. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. And I'm going to walk you through, here's a picture of our carrot top pesto. And here's a little explanation. Again, we'll post this link at the end of the webinar for you to go visit. And that's a sneak peek of what's to come. But basically what we're going to do here is only use a handful of ingredients. We're going to take our carrot tops. We're going to quickly blanch them. I highly recommend that. That's going to take some of the bitterness out. It's going to make them very malleable in terms of using them in the food processor. We're going to use some pine nuts, a little Parmesan Reggiano cheese, a few garlic cloves, a little olive oil. And then this is where you want to pay that money for that really, really good olive oil, because you're gonna taste it. And you're not just gonna want to cook with this kind of stuff. This is the real creme de la creme of the olive oil, and you're gonna want to use that. Basically, we put it all in a food processor, we whiz it all up, you drizzle on the olive oil until it reaches the taste and consistency that's right for you, and then salt and pepper to taste. And that's how simple it is. And what can we do with this pesto that's up here? Well, again, I mentioned soups, hummus, etc. One of the things I want to share with you is we did a from scratch pesto pizza with some heirloom tomatoes, again, fresh out of the garden, topped out with a little Hawaiian sea salt. Absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. And I'm going to share with you, again, a quick pic of what our... So here's our, let me get that there. There we go. And so here is our carrot top pesto. And one thing that you can do with it, here it is with a roasted beet and goat cheese salad. So phenomenal to use it there. Incredibly delicious. And this pesto isn't just for carrot tops. We take essentially the same recipe and we use beet greens and the stems of the beets. And again, we blanched them here. And so this is a roasted beet and goat cheese salad with pesto 2 ways. And one of the great things about using those beet greens is that we use them just like we used the carrot tops. And this is really one way in which we take the lessons that we learn in the classroom, the why, the how to evaluate our ingredients, and take them into the kitchen. Again, where the laboratory is, that's the taste laboratory. And then we get to practice culinary medicine and enjoy literally the delicious fruits of our labor and things like this. And again, looking at these foundational principles of zero waste kitchen, sustainability, you make a big bowl of this pesto, you can freeze it. If anybody can remember the old timey ice cube trays that I think you can still buy on Amazon, you could put the pesto in there and freeze it. And then you have these little bits of pesto that you can defrost throughout the year. So in the middle of winter, when it's dreary and you are aching for a little bit of spring, and who knows if we'll be able to travel to anyone warm, at least those of us here in Montana, you can go ahead and defrost a little bit of that pesto, have a little taste of spring and summer, and just brighten up your day. So I hope you enjoyed that little tour, that little bit of practical culinary medicine, taking some of our lessons that we learned in the classroom, that the hows and whys behind that, bring them into the kitchen, and at the end of the day have something delicious that's made for us. That really, what is the purpose of food? It's to make us happy. And you know, a happy meal is good for, you know, our health and well-being in all sorts of ways. So I want to try to wrap it up here so that leave some time for questions. As Eric said, if you have them, hopefully you've been typing them in along the way. If some questions have arisen, feel free to just type those in on the chat box now. And Eric, if you're still there, I'm happy to answer some questions for a little bit.
All right, sounds good. You've got some specific questions to your carrot pesto here. So
Yeah,
do you have any recommendations for good olive oil?
Yeah, so that is a great question. And one of the things I want to share, because most people don't think about this, is that olive oil is a perishable. So you always want to shop for it like you would shop for any kind of fruit or vegetable, and you want to look for what's fresh. So, for example, there's an organic California olive growers, and it has a special seal on the back so you know the olive oil you're getting is organic. It also has a date, so you know when it was harvested and manufactured. And when you get your olive oil, you want to store it in either a colored container, because sunlight it's like any fat, will accelerate the process of the time in terms of that the oil will go rancid. And you've got to remember too, hemispheres are flipped. So, you know, in our spring and summer, we want to get, you know, California, beautiful olive oil. If you love the olive oil from Europe, that's fantastic. But during our winter in the Northern Hemisphere, maybe that's a time if you need to shop, you might want to get olive oil that comes in from Australia, for example. So normally we're always thinking about local fresh, but in terms of something like olive oil, we may want to think, you know, of seasonally, which again is something that we emphasize in our culinary medicine class. So always look for the extra virgin, cold pressed organic olive oil whenever you're shopping. And really the key for the olive oil is to look for that freshness marker. You want to know when that was harvested. And also try olive oils from different areas, because we often forget, and again, one of the things that I love about culinary medicine, we often talk about, we actually have a section in our class about wine and other things, is we often talk about wines in terms of their terroir, and a French Burgundy tastes so different than an Oregon Pinot Noir, although they're the same grape. It's where they're grown, it's how they're manufactured, etc. The same thing with food, and that's especially true with olive oil. So Greek olive oil, you know, from Crete tastes way different than Spanish olive oil. That's going to taste different than California olive oil. So again, find one that you like. Just make sure that it's fresh. Store it well. Great question.
Great. Okay, how are your online courses available at any time, or is there a scheduled start date? And is the syllabus located on your website for download?
Yes and yes. So the syllabus is there. If you go to chefdrmike.com, you'll see a little tab that has online courses. Just tap on that. That'll give you some background, and then you can download the complete syllabus and see what's involved in the course. The course is to progress at your own. I know everybody's got crazy schedules, crazy things and times of day. So we interact with each other with forums. So there's an online discussion that's always ongoing between me and you as a student, as well as students amongst themselves. So we have that kind of online community, but you go through the material and progress completely on your own rate. So there's no pressure there, and it's evergreen. There's no time limit to how long or how quickly you want to do it.
Great. Okay, here's some more questions here. Do I have to order special foods or supplements to practice culinary medicine?
No, that's a great thing about culinary medicine. As I mentioned earlier, this is all about you. So we're all individual in terms of the flavors and the profiles and the things we like and we don't. And really, it's also different as we're learning. And again, we talk about this in the course when we look at things like epigenetics and nutrigenomics and those sorts of sciences that are showing how personal our interaction with our food, which is a reflection of our environment, is. And the easy example for this is food allergies. So, you know, I love all kinds of tree nuts, and I can eat, you know, walnuts and cashews, which is actually tree fruit, I don't know. but other sorts of tree nuts, and they'll actually be nutritious and good for me. Other people, eat those kind of tree nuts, they have an anaphylactic reaction and die. So food and our genetics and our environment, that's very unique. So we really emphasize you've got to do what's right for you, according to your body, your taste, what you're built for. And that means, there is not a one size fits all. So we're not selling any kind of program with, supplements or eat this, don't eat that kind of attitude. There are so many great foods out there that, we are all just waiting to try. I encourage you the exact opposite of that, not limit your exploration of food, but increase it. If we went back hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors running around the Serengeti, they were little scavengers. So we are built to eat everything.
Great. Do I need a lot of or any special equipment to do culinary medicine?
No. Again, we're not in kitchen supply manufacturing. So really, all I would encourage you to do, if you find that this is something that really speaks to you, is invest in a really good chef's knife. I've got, all the kitchen wizardry, I do things sous vide, but you don't need anything. You can do 99% of executive chef cooking with a chef's knife. That's how it started, and at the end of the day, that's all you really, really need. So if you're going to invest in one thing for your culinary career and engage in, I really recommend you invest in a good quality chef's knife.
Great. Okay, let's see. Is culinary medicine like the keto diet?
No. So again, we don't, and not that there isn't anything wrong with diets in terms of, hey, I need to lose weight, I'm going to take this particular tact to achieve that goal. Most diets, as has been shown in many, many studies, it really doesn't matter what road you take to get there. If you're after weight loss or such, you'll get there. The problem is long term. Once you said, hey, I want to lose 5 pounds, I've lost these 5 pounds, where do I go from here? They're not sustainable. And so that's where culinary medicine comes in, because we want to give you the tools and empower you to eat those foods that contribute to your health and wellness, but also sustain you because you love to eat them and they're delicious. They make you feel great. You can't wait to have, that meal, that bite of what you're cooking for dinner. And that's, a diet, and that's a prescription really for health and wellness, for the rest of our lives, and spreading joy and bringing joy to those around us. Because I tell you, what is that Snickers person? You turn into somebody, different, when you're hungry. So instead of reaching for a Snickers bar, culinary medicine is going to show you how to craft your own cure to that.
Great. What would you say is one of the best hearty, healthy foods?
I don't like the idea of one particular food for all the reasons we've talked about. And one of my pet peeves that you're gonna embarrass me into admitting here at the webinar, whoever was insightful enough to ask that question, is this idea of superfoods. All really good foods that supply us with wholesomeness, they're all super. And what's super to you depends again on your terms of taste. So what we want to do, and what the data really shows when we look at culinary medicine, and again, this is what we go through in the course, what we find is it's not this superfood or not that superfood. There's a great bit that we touch on that was done by National Geographic called the Blue Zones, where they looked at certain areas around the world and said, wow, people are living to be over 100 here and they're incredibly vibrant. What's their secret? And one of the things they looked for was, is there a secret drink? Is there a superfood? Is it this or that? Is it all those things we see, advertised on late night television that you've got to buy this supplement or that supplement? And they found that it was none of those things. So in culinary medicine, what we found is that the commonality between all those different regions and all those different diets was that people ate fresh, wholesome, authentic food. And I made an allusion earlier to that NOVA classification, which looks at health impacts of diets based on the amount of ultra processed food. And studies, now that we're starting to look at food that way, are showing direct correlations between what is essentially the standard American diet or the modern Western diet and the development of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and all these scourges of disability and disease that we deal with. So, you can take something that is a wholesome vegetable, batter dip it, deep fry it, serve it with some horrible condiments, and it's not so good for you anymore. Take that same food in its natural, authentic state, the way nature intended it, and it could be the best thing for your body. So understanding that, developing that perspective and that approach, changing the way we view the relationship between health and food, instead of these palate profiling classes like fats and carbs or red meat and poultry, understanding that, it's about how it was bred. It's about what it was fed. It's about where it was led.
Great. We'll get to one more question here because we're almost out of time. Can culinary medicine help me get a job, Michael?
Yes, really, it's interesting. So for people coming from a health perspective, this is obviously a intense need in terms of dealing with patients and guiding them to make choices. Certainly people coming from a culinary perspective, there's a whole lot there in terms of, cooking as a personal chef, or cooking at a much larger scale for restaurants or businesses or hospitals, where we need to serve food that is healthful for people, but also delicious. We want it to be great for them. And for people, coming in from in between those roads, just from the general public, these are, value added if you're, for example, looking into things of public health, where now you can understand food deserts and addressing the needs of populations in those kinds of terms, utilizing these skills of culinary medicine. And I'm getting the wrap up signal from my boss here. So I know we're going to wrap it up. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to follow us on social media. Again, you can see all of those: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on www.chefdrmike.com. Drop your questions there. I will get back to you. And we're going to be having more of these. So if you have a request for something that you'd like to see us do in terms of practical culinary medicine, hey, let us know. We are here for you.
Okay, great. Well, I think that just about does it on time. So I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today, and hopefully you can tune in again on some more of these webinars. So thanks again for joining us, and I hope you all have a really great day.
Thanks so much, everybody.